What's up everybody, Demon back, welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing the first breakdown for the initial reveal trailer for Godzilla Monster Planet. Now, I'm very excited about this. This is the first trailer we've gotten for the anime. I'm super stoked because I'm not really into anime, so I'm really excited to get into anime, or at least get experience with it, get some exposure to it, because I haven't really been exposed to it at all. I've seen, some episodes of Dragon Ball. I'm not really into anime. That's the point I'm trying to make. I want to get into Evangelion because a lot of people have told me it's really worth it, especially because I love Shin Godzilla, but I haven't really gotten into it yet, and so this is going to be my first introduction to it that's a real introduction. I'm very excited for that. Not to mention, it's a brand new Godzilla movie, so what can go wrong there? I'm super excited. So let's get into the breakdown of this awesome 30-second trailer. And like I said when I made the intro, guys, when we got our first revealed trailer for the next upcoming Godzilla movie, I was going to show off the extremely long intro, so it's not that long, but if you guys want to stick around and watch it, it's pretty cool. It's that one that I chopped up into multiple bits and I use as my alternate intros. I want to showcase the full intro because I've never used it before. So I'm going to show it off here. If you don't want to stick around for this awesome intro, you can skip to the time seen on screen. Starting off, we have some on-screen text that translates to 1 year after Shin Godzilla. This means that this movie obviously is just 1 year after Toho made Shin Godzilla. That's not trying to say that this takes place 1 year after Shin Godzilla. All that is trying to say is that this comes from the studio 1 year after the groundbreaking movie came out in Japan. And yes, I know a lot of people in America don't consider the movie groundbreaking, but it was in Japan. So our first image of the trailer is of one of our spacecrafts flying back to Earth. You can see there's some hurricanes on Earth and the sun coming up over the horizon. Then there's a different image of the same spaceship flying over Earth. This looks like it's going to be our main base of operations that all the other ships are launched from. You can notice that Earth isn't really looking the same as it is for us now. This takes place 20,000 years in the future, and so a lot of the land masses appear to have been gone. It looks like there's just a lot of islands left over. That could be because of the region they're in, or that could be because a lot of land masses have been sunken due to maybe global warming or something like that. Maybe Godzilla's nuclear energy melts everything. It's also really cool to see because we have seen the concept imagery for what inspired this, and it is very spot on how they translated from the imagery to on screen. So it's really cool to see that. You even have the sun coming over the horizon. I just think they did an absolutely amazing job bringing the concept imagery into life on screen in this anime. So here's our first look at our character Haruo, who is saying, "We're taking back what was stolen from us." So if you were wondering what he was saying, that is actually what he's talking about. He's talking about going down to Earth and killing Godzilla so they can take Earth back. You can see him looking down at Earth, and just like the description that we talked about last news update reads, he's kind of amazed by Earth. This is the first time he's seen it in 20,000 years. Here's a really cool picture of some of our spacecrafts flying down to Earth. These look like they're going to be our main warbirds that are going to be doing a lot of the fighting. You can see them in the background of the Godzilla anime poster that came out a while ago. We've also seen some design imagery from them from that promo from a couple months ago. So I'm not totally sure what to make of this scene. It looks like a big reactor of some sort is about to go off, maybe explode. You can see a lot of light being emitted from it, and it kind of flickers to imply something maybe sinister happening, maybe an explosion inbound. I'm not totally sure what to make of this. It does remind me a lot of the old cartoon Generator Rex, so I'm interested to see what kind of carryovers that cartoon kind of has in this movie. And I know this movie's not going to be inspired by Generator Rex, but Generator Rex was very inspired by anime, so I'm interested to see what kind of elements from Generator Rex I can expect to see in this, seeing as though Generator Rex was inspired by this kind of movie. So here's a cool picture of a lot of our main characters looking out down on Earth. We'll get a better view of that here in a second, but we have seen this same boardroom in some concept art before, before, so once again, really cool to see the way they directly translated concept art on screen. Here's a picture up close of the characters looking down on Earth. So we have a couple main characters seen in here, those being Mepthys and Mulu Ilu. I'm not totally sure on the pronunciation of those names, but I did the best I could. The rest of them, I'm not totally sure, they might just be cannon fodder. So this explosion scene really had me for a minute. I didn't know what I was quite looking at. Some explosion went off and some maybe boxes flew to the side. It didn't hit me until much later that was actually showing a lot of scale. That is a massive explosion, and those are big trucks being blown to the side like they're toys. It's really cool to see just the kind of scale we can be expecting from this movie. So this is tricky. This is a map of Earth in the far future. You can see they have the old Pacific Ocean labeled, so we kind of know the general geographic region this movie's going to take place in. We assume that it's going to take place in Japan, and there's some on-text words that are scattered throughout the map, but I can't quite tell what they say. It looks like maybe we have a mountain zone, and I really don't know what the other things say. I really can't tell. If you can come up with some sort of translation, I would really appreciate it. It's just a little too bright. Maybe it's my eyes. Maybe I just can't see it very well. But I have been able to locate around where I believe this is taking place in Japan. So here's a normal map of Japan. It looks nothing like the map we see in the Monster Planet picture. Once again, here's the Monster Planet picture, and when we zoom in and spin Japan around, you can actually nearly locate where this movie is going to be taking place. Looks like it's going to be taking place near middle of Japan, directly north of Nagoya. Looks like maybe it's going to be taking place close to Kanazawa. I'm not quite sure what other cities are around there, but it's near Gifu and Kyoto, and Tokyo's not that far away from where we're taking place. We have some shots of some soldiers running, and there's nothing really to note here other than the animation looks pretty cool. So there's this great shot of one of the big, huge tanks firing off 3 laser blasts, and I love the way all the sparks go across the screen. You actually track the main bolt from the laser all the way up through the screen, which is just showing some of the interesting directing we're in for in this movie. We actually have seen a lot of imagery of these robots throughout these concept arts, and it's really cool to see them on screen now. However, we still are waiting to see the big Land Rovers that were teased at the big anime festival. So here's our first action shot of Selvam, and this looks really awesome. So if you pay attention closely, you see the big monster in the background, and he takes a huge chomp down on a soldier, and then he flies towards the camera. It's really cool. Now, there is some misleading editing here where you actually see Haruo for a second, and it looks like he's kind of in the situation, spinning around and reacting. However, if you look in the background of Haruo, he is indoors, so he is not in this action scene directly. I do believe this is editing to make us think that he's in a lot more danger than he actually is. I won't be surprised, however, if I am just overanalyzing and it does actually turn out that this is Haruo actually reacting to the situation, and the background is maybe a spaceship he's standing in front of, or maybe the background is just something random at all, like in the old Ben 10 cartoons, whenever there was a running chase sequence, the background would fade away into nothing. So maybe it's something like that. But I definitely think this takes place in a different location, in a different part of the movie, and they're just editing it trickily. But it's really cool to see Selvam attacking this person. One reason is because we know the director is supposedly this director who really does these gruesome deaths in these animes, so it's really cool to see something like that brought into Godzilla finally. And it's especially cool because we actually have seen the development of this exact scene taking place with the big Selvam monster attacking this person and biting them in his mouth. So it's really cool to see it directly brought into the finished product. We've seen a lot of pictures of Selvam's construction over the past few months, which is really cool because this is the new original monster for the anime, and it looks like they really want to advertise that. It looks like this is something really special. Here's of course a picture of the dead Selvam monster, so this could mean that there's only one Selvam monster encountered in the movie, and we do know that some of our soldiers are able to take it down and kill it with some guns. It doesn't look that big, so clearly they were able to take it down with their weaponry. Of course, this is the far future, so they're going to have some real advanced weaponry that we don't quite have yet in our modern time. Or it could mean that there's a species of Selvam, which is what I am led to believe based off the whole description of the Selvam monsters being a subspecies of Godzilla, and that they have this whole food chain where they start out as worm monsters and turn into adult monsters. And we do of course have our final product of Selvam, and I won't be surprised if there's a lot of them throughout the movie that attack people and throughout the whole series. We can also go back to one of the old concept arts that we got of a huge tunnel burrowed out, and now maybe we can make the connection that maybe this was the Selvam monster. Maybe what we're seeing here is the Selvam worm monster burrowed through this tunnel. We don't quite know how big this tunnel is, but it looks like there's some people down there that are really small, so I won't be surprised if it's not a Selvam monster, but at the same time, it might be. Considering the fact that the Selvums are a lot smaller, it's probably not unless there's like a main queen Selvam, and of course this is an offshoot of the Godzilla species, so maybe this is just what Godzilla did. Or it could just be overgrowth, and once again I'm overanalyzing.
Godzilla, Kaiju 惑星.
So finally we have our shot of Godzilla roaring, and there is a lot of controversy around this for multiple reasons. Number one, it's a Toho Godzilla movie and Americans really don't seem to like that for some reason. I've been seeing that a lot lately. It's the popular trend to kind of not like Toho. That's its own thing, but in this, it is kind of controversial that, oh my god, they have a similar design to 2014. However, the design is not that similar to 2014 at all, especially when you compare the two, which we'll do here in a second. The other thing that's pretty controversial is that we have the Showa roar, and a lot of people don't really like that they keep reusing the Showa roar in these new Godzilla movies. I'm personally fine with it because I love the Showa movies. They're my favorite era, so I totally love hearing the roar come back. I do think that the Heisei roar is more menacing and that they should be using it more, but I'm fine with them using the Showa roar. The other thing that a lot of people are upset about is the fact that Godzilla quote-unquote doesn't move. However, if you pay attention, he is moving throughout this shot. He starts out looking down and he slowly looks up as the camera pans in towards him. It is hard to tell, but it is there. He is looking up throughout the shot. The surprising thing is how little our human characters move. It looks like Godzilla is going to be a good 700 feet or more, and the human characters are kind of just standing there stunned, which you would be if you saw Godzilla, but they already knew Godzilla existed. The only thing that they can be surprised about is just how tall he got, and they're not really reacting to this. They're just kind of standing there and observing. So this Godzilla design I think is very new and original. Yes, it looks similar to the 2014 design, but it mostly looks like, to me, the old school Godzilla from 1954's head attached to a muscular Shin Godzilla-esque body, and you'll see why here in a minute, with some brand new types of dorsal fins that we've never seen in a Godzilla movie before. Now yes, that original poster did resemble 2014 a lot, I do admit that, but it is clear now that the new design does not resemble the Godzilla. There's a lot of differences. When you look at the 2014 design compared to the actual final product of this Godzilla, you really do see just how different these two are. They really don't have that many comparisons that you can be making. One thing that I especially find interesting is this weird beard spike we have on Godzilla's chin. We've never seen a Godzilla with like this kind of facial hair, and a lot of animals do grow some sort of like facial hair or something like that that resembles facial hair, and it looks like Godzilla's going to be doing that in the new anime as well. One thing I want to add really quickly is I love how jagged this Godzilla looks. He looks very spiky compared to many other Godzillas. But the reason I find this whole beard thing and the whole face of his head very interesting is because when we take a look back a few months to an old picture that was labeled as quote-unquote fan art after it was reportedly leaked online as official concept art for Godzilla Monster Planet, Toho and Polygon Pictures came out and said it was just really detailed fan art and it wasn't actually official. I do think it's time to confirm that this was in fact leaked and covered up by Toho. You see a similar beard on the bottom of Godzilla's chin. You even see the same two jagged spikes on the bottom of it. This Godzilla is very rigid. Yes, the dorsal fins are a lot larger in this Godzilla, but the whole face is identical to the one we see in the new finalized design. The arm is very long, just as it is in this picture, and the massive scale of Godzilla is also very similar. The three things that are major differences are, number one, Godzilla is very blue in this picture, and you can also see his heart through his body and his veins throughout his body. However, this might be at the end of the movie when they're taking Godzilla down somehow. Maybe this is at the end of the movie and Godzilla is defeated temporarily for this Godzilla Monster Planet movie. Maybe they defeat him by striking a blow to his heart, and it illuminates his whole body blue, because I'm sure he'll have blue atomic breath in this movie. That is just typically what Godzilla has, so it's a fair assumption to make by this point. Number two is the dorsal fins are incredibly different. They're much more Godzilla Millennium and much longer than the ones in the actual design are. That could just be because this is an early concept. And number three is the scale of Godzilla. Godzilla is just absolutely incredibly massive here. There's some mountains next to him. Mountains are like 1,400 feet usually. That's some big mountains, 1,400 feet. They could be a lot bigger than that, I know, but I'm going to assume these are some average size big mountains, so 1,400 feet, maybe like 2,000 feet, and this Godzilla absolutely just is so much bigger than those. He looks to be around 6,000 feet, so it's just incredibly huge, and I'm sure they decided when making this concept that it was too big and that Godzilla just was not going to be able to realistically be defeated by anything, so they had to scale him down to what looks to be like 700 to 1,000 feet. But this picture, I mean, it is very spot on. You see a spaceship up at the front that we just have confirmation of in the trailer. You see the same soldiers at the bottom, and you even have some text on screen that I can't quite translate. I do believe that this might be an official picture that got leaked from Toho, and they had to cover it up because there's just a lot of similarities between this and the final design, and I'm sure Toho didn't look at a crazy good fan art and decide, you know what, we're going to design our Godzilla after that, because that's just not what they tend to do. So the trailer ends with this great Godzilla Monster Planet logo. It's super cool the way it comes on screen, and it's very different from the previous one we've seen, and it's also very different from the actual Godzilla Monster Planet logo. It's kind of weird that they keep changing it. Initially it was the Godzilla Monster Planet logo that was just the planet in the background, very simplistic. Then we got the much more complex version with a lot of gray in the background, and now we have a very dark, shiny version, which I like a lot more than either of the other two. So some lingering questions that I have: what more kaiju will be confirmed for the Monster Planet universe? What are the designs of the other kaiju going to look like? Are they going to be crazy radical, or are they going to be more traditional to their usual looks? What Space Godzilla's origin is going to be? Is he going to be a man-made monster created in order to combat Godzilla by the humans? Could that be a possible sequel? I don't know. That sounds like a really good idea. Mogera's confirmed for this series, so it's going to be really cool to see the way he's implemented as a military weapon. And it's going to be really cool to see how Dogura's implemented into this series. I've never seen the original Dogura, and it looks like a very interesting movie to me, so it's going to be really cool to see how he's implemented into this movie. And my final lingering question is, what is this monster? We still haven't seen a lot of monster footage yet, but I am curious. Is this an original monster? Is this Dogura? I'm not sure who this is, but he looks really weird. We also see a monster in the foreground here, and this might be one of our worm forms of Selvam. I'd love to see the finalized version of this shot implemented into the next trailer. I guess we'll just have to wait until then. Well, that does it for the breakdown, guys. I hope you enjoyed. See you guys next time. D-Man, out.